Let's go. Just take it in, boys. Take it in. All right, Mopar people. Welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. This is going to be a fun, mad, thrashing video of me working on this Coronet. A lot of people have requested I do a little longer videos on this stuff. I might as well. I'm doing lots of work. I'll film some of it for you. I appreciate y'all watching. Let's go to work. Get the wiring out of here. I've got to pick up my tools, get rid of Barney and Simba or whoever that is over there, and get this thing pressure washed. Alright, I got her jacked way on up. Everything's blacked out again. Feel so much better about it. I did my K-frame in a semi-gloss, and I did the remainder in a what they called low gloss. I like the sheen of it. It's got a little bit of, kind of like satin. Cool. Transmission, I'm going to slip her in, get my tail shaft or transmission cross member in, and then probably support the front of it with a jack so I can let the car down. I can do my engine. Engine is beautifully red again. Nice and red all over. Fans on, looking good. And that's it. Go back to work. So here's where I left off at. Transmission's in. The cross member hanging out. I just ran my ratchet strap across to hold her up nice. The two cables are going to be fun. They live right there, and they will go into the column, the bottom part here. It's kind of tricky, I think, the way the pins go in and stuff, but I've got that rubber collar slid up, and I've got the little aluminum plate here. I still need to, I think it's 2 or 3 screws. It'll come off, slide down. Make my life a little bit easier. But I want to hook those up before I put the engine in. That way I can be inside the engine bay and access that stuff instead of having to lean over the fender, all that jazz. So I'll hook that up, get my converter, new converter slid in, and I'll keep pushing forward. I want to get this engine in and drive this thing. Hook my wiring harness back up, all that fun stuff. I got my cables hooked up. Let me bring it around to look at that. They're both bolted in very nicely. I may need to do a little bit of adjustment, but as I was working my park lever, you can see it here. So there's drive, there's neutral. I just leave that like that. I was messing around with this, and look how loose that is. Come on. Even if you were to touch the blinker, that stuff loosened up over the years. I've never dealt with this old of a steering wheel, but I was able to get on for A bodies only and find out how to get that button off. It's pretty easy after you figure it out. There it is. Ta-da! It's kind of funky, but I didn't break it, so that's good. The wheels have got a few little cracks in it and stuff, but that's okay. I'm going to turn her about straight, take my screws out and tighten this dude up so it's not so sloppy. Wheels off, all that jazz. I'm just going to touch my shifter lever and watch you see that thing vibrate or move back and forth. See that little screw right there? There's one there. I can see another one there. One here. I would bet there is 4 total. So I'll need to pop my turn signal switch out some. That bolt or screw, whatever you want to call it, will take my handle off. And I want to double check that light bulb on here just to be sure it works, so that they can get a nice pretty illumination of the shifter light. Next step, drive shaft. I figured I'd go ahead and throw the joints in and have it ready to be stuck in as I'm putting the engine in. I got a new coat of black paint for it, so I got to pressure wash it and scrub it off and all that. New joints. So this one moves pretty freely that way, but it kind of has a weird stick to it. Let me show you here if I can twist her around. See how that stays stuck straight out? It almost has it's got a break in it. I don't know if I can get it to stand up or not, but that's no good. I don't know how long it's been like that or whatever, but it's an aftermarket joint. It's got a grease fitting in it. So went to the parts store. Parts store number 1 had a Moog 315G. Had to go to O'Reilly's and get my other 315G for precision. And that one says made in China, but we're going to see. It looked pretty nice. This one doesn't say, but I'm sure it is also. I'm going to hammer them in and get my shaft ready. While I was outside painting the drive shaft, apparently the power went off inside here. So I went ahead and got the car down off the jack to roll it outside to drop his engine in. And after I got the car outside and I got the transmission jacked up, you know, just a little support in the front, I had it good to go. Basically, the lights came back on. So it's only like 45 out, so not bad. Colder than usual, but that's okay. What I'll do is leave it there, throw the engine in, and then roll it back inside after I get my hoist and my engine stand here out of the way. And that'll be another part of the journey. Hopefully I can get this dropped in today. My drive shaft, I put 3 good coats on it after I cleaned it up. And it'll be ready to stick in as well. So I'm thinking engine in, jack the car back up on the jack stands, so that I can run my transmission lines and other things that need to take place while it's in the air. But I guess I'll do that time-lapse thing where it looks like I put an engine in really fast, but it's actually slower than it appears. our engine is in. Got all the top bell housing bolts and that other bottom side bell housing bolt. You can see my pretty rag that I stuck right there so I didn't hurt my tunnel at all. Doubled it up. Here's a fun poly fact of the day. If you see that bolt down there, or the blue hole, it doesn't go in anything. So this old transmission, I guess it's the 65, the hole is below it. So I can stick a bolt in. I'll show you. Won't go there. That doesn't go in anywhere. But I could put it under it, like that, if I want to. And it just barely touches the hole. I think I can thread it in there. It's not really doing a lot. I don't know. I hadn't decided on it, but the distance from there to there, so the dowel pin hole to the center of that hole, is a lot narrower than it is on our poly block. See that big wide space there? That's probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and the LA block was only about 1 inch. So you learn something new every day. Let's keep pushing. Got her back up in the air. And I got my torque converter bolts there, so let's roll up under here and see what we can see. I gotta put my nuts back on here. I left those off, and I left these snug, but not tight. So I need to tighten those, put those nuts on. Speedometer cable's hooked up yesterday. Where's it at? Right there, sorry. Nifty. Shifting cables in, hooked up smoothly. As we roll forward, you can see that wonderful oil pan that I'm so proud of. And check out my bolt hole I was trying to tell you about. It's right there. So if I may try to stick a bolt in that. Anyway, starter's ordered, it'll be here tomorrow. And here's my converter. So did we bind it? Did we hurt it? Should be able to turn it by finger. See there? That's nice. And we'll get our blue mark lined up here with a blue mark. And I can throw those bolts in. I'll probably grab it like that and pull it forward. Here she comes. Thanks to Blake at Bad Tree Productions for that awesome tripod. It's got a magnet on it. Now we're walking forward. Just like that. It's our Coronet Driveshaft, all painted up real pretty. Got about 4 coats of semi-gloss on there. My new joints are already in. I did those before I painted it, so it would look a little nicer, but check it out. One finger. It moves freely in every direction. It's not hard, not stiff. It does have a grease fitting somewhere. I'm going to shoot a little bit in before I stick it in the front. And in the rear, it's got one as well. I will wait and see, get my caps on before I grease it. But she looks nice, much better. So it'll look like a nice black drive shaft under a nice black car. So my tail shaft is all the way in the transmission to where the plug's touching. I still have at least 1.5 inches, about 1 inch here. I would almost call it 1.75 inches even. I'll turn my caps to where my rings are inside. Boom and boom. And now I'm going to slide it backwards out of the transmission to keep the rear of the transmission tail shaft housing from breaking. Not that this car has a lot of power, but if it bottoms out because it has a lot of weight in the rear, then it would break something. There we are. I'll get my, oh yeah, there we go. That one's pressed in. Turn us around here. Clips good. And there it is, nice and flush right there. Put my caps on. Let's go. See that distance right there? That's really nice. That's how far that yoke came out of that transmission. This yoke was super long. It's probably somewhere into there. A lovely day back. Went ahead and put the mini starter in. That was what the owner had requested instead of the old big boy. So everything kind of layers in now. I've got my power steering pump cleaned up to go on those brackets. Before I put that on the front, I'm going to go ahead and get this header put in, and I'll do that header. After I get the header in, I can go ahead and get my nuts on the bottom side of these for our engine mounts, so they'll be tight. And I can hook my tailpipes back up, so it'll go starter, header, which it'll go in from the top side. I just have to jack up on it just barely for it to slide past here. I got my headers wrapped up. That was another thing I talked about with the owner. This tube was very close to the box, and I had to move it anyway. You can see the new random design of it. And it's going on. I got some pretty trick bolts here. These are the Stage 8 locking fasteners for the header bolts. And they come with these cool clips and ears that keep the bolts from backing out. So I'm going to run it, I believe, before I pop those on, and that way I can retighten them one time. The fuel line's hooked up. I don't know if I showed you that or not, but it's snowballing now. Everything's blowing together. I should be able to drive it tomorrow, knock on wood. In my Summit box, I've got my 3-pack of gauges and my mini tack. I'll show you. Remember, mini tack's going to go on our hole right there. Be pretty trick. All that stuff's auto meter. And I picked our seat up. Let me show you that. Already getting dark out. Right here, that full piece is brand new that the guy had to redo. Upholsterer, Mr. Paul Lee is his name. And then he had to kind of, I guess, do like a back stitch there, because this had ripped apart almost an inch, and he was thinking that he had to replace all of it. You can see that's something crusty on there from years and years of all that, but I'm trying to tell. This looks like it may have been replaced as well. It's pretty supple, as they'd call it. But I'll vacuum the seat and get it put in due time. As I go on with my headers, I got my transmission lines pressure washed. I got to do a little more hand scrubbing on them, just some of that black funk that wouldn't come off, and get them flushed out good before I put the cooler on. So cover for the dust cover for the converter is all cleaned up too, so it's good to go. I got to layer this stuff in. I can't just do one and not do the others at the same. So you'll see above my wrap, I went ahead and painted the whole flange black, cleaned it with lacquer thinner 2 or 3 times, painted it. Feel a lot better about it. Got to get that gasket dropped in. Got our kickdown done. So that's an original bracket. I made the kind of Z-shaped bracket that goes down and under it, and tightened it. Had to trim off just a little bit here. I got my factory kickdown rod. I just shot a little silver on it. This is an extension that I made. It's just like a little pipe nipple. I drilled it out and tapped it, and then I found another similar kickdown rod I was able to steal a piece off of. It wasn't one of these full rods, but basically the fine thread, 24 thread I think it is. So right now I just thread it into there, put that jam nut on it to keep that side. This side screwed in real nice and tightly there, so I don't have to worry about that. It'll never back out. My bracket here holds the rod itself. I left a little bit of slack, but whenever I hit the accelerator pedal, all that should go back. Kick down all the way back, and that's where it's at now. I may find me a little clip just to pop on here, be sure that won't pull off, but currently it can't go anywhere. But just for safety, I'll throw that on. My spring situation's a little goofy, and I may do something with that. If I had a spring that had the straight towards the end or towards the side, but I think it might work as is for now. I'll keep pushing. I may throw my gauges in. Basically, wiring, gauges, radiator. I can drive this thing, and then I can worry about the power steering pump later. I just got it looped off here. We'll see where it goes. Right, on this deal, I went ahead and drilled a little hole through that pin right there that didn't exist, so I could run these two green wires. Let's see, one of them goes to my temperature sensor, which I'll go on the front for the odometer gauge, and oh, the others, the dark green's my tack, so I just did them like that. I think it'd look a little cleaner than let's see, they'll basically shove through that hole nice and freely. So I'll go through my plug. Might have to feed them separately, but that way I'm fairly sure the connection will be long enough that it there's no splicing involved. Eliminates another connector. So I'll run it like that. Just camouflage a little bit of wiring is all. I try to use factory colors from a old paintless kit that Drew had bought. Get on through there. Yeah. There it is. So 1 and 2 going through, and I'll put them side by side just like that. Feed them. These are, you know, sensor. One's a sensor. I mean, they're both basically sensor wires. One a tachometer and a temperature gauge, so they're not really high voltage or anything like that, so they can be that close, doesn't matter. Shoving it right on through, and I'll make my lengths about the same as the other wires and go in. Snap, boom, bang. Feel good about that. All my connectors in there looked good, and I cleaned them. This blue wire I'll use later for my air conditioning power source wire, whatever you want to call that. I'll just tuck it for now. There's that. So that's plugged. I can plug in my distributor, which I'll wait just a minute, and tidy the rest of that up. All right, it's a lovely day back. Currently, I have my neutral safety switch bypassed. I just rebuilt this carburetor and put it on. My radiator is mostly full of water. I need to fill it up a little bit more. I started this for just a second yesterday, and it ran kind of chunky, whatever, poorly. So I knew that carburetor needed to be gone through, so it is totally rebuilt. I got me a new spring on the front of my kickdown lever. There we go. And I think I'm ready to try it again. I'm gonna have to turn it over quite a bit at the beginning just to pump fuel into the carburetor, but I know I have fuel up to that point. We made it. Idle up a little bit. And The rear wheels are spinning because it's in neutral. So she lives. Let me get it tuned up. I'll go ahead and start it up. Uh-oh. That ain't right. Come on. All right, not too much left except to put my little clutch fan on here. This is a pretty trick piece. I looked up that part number. It said 912773. It popped up on eBay as something kind of cool, so I believe it's going to work very well for this engine, and we'll find out. I did go to that shorter fan clutch like we were talking about. Alright, looks like she's going on nicely. I'm going to go ahead and cut you off. When we cut back on, I'll have this dude on the ground. We'll see if the transmission has park or not. As far as I can tell, I'm ready for a little road test. I've got my temperature gauge out here, but even idling, it never got over 180, and it's got a 180 thermostat in it, so that's nice. I got my new fan on, bolted up nicely. My steering box is just looped right now because I'm running out of daylight, and I feel like if I don't get to drive this thing soon, I'm going to lose all hope. I have no leaks currently. My new seat is here, but I stuck this boat seat in for now. It's pretty well secured. All I'm trying to do is go down the road, see if we shift 1, 2, 3. Like it's fine. I did not finish hooking up that tack yet. I can do that after the road test, but I'm more concerned about shifting, driving, do any of my brakes work. I got a big block right there in front of that tire, and another big block. It's ugly, but it's over here in front of this tire, because I'm not sure even if my park works or not. So step one, I'm gonna start it up with my foot on the brake with it in neutral, see if it stays in place, because those back tires were spinning pretty much. I'm gonna set up a couple cameras in case I end up driving this through the back wall over there. So y'all say a little prayer for me, and here we go. Y'all would not believe it, but I just talked to Mr. John Cope at Cope Racing Transmissions, and I got my problem fixed. There's reverse, neutral, uh-oh, might need a little more. There's drive, second, first. There we go. At least now my neutral safety switch works, which is huge. I believe I need to go one more hole on my adjustment, and I'll be there. She backed out on her own, fellas. Let's go down the road before it gets dark. Here we go. Got a little bit of brake pedal. Power steering's not hooked up, I can definitely tell that. There we go. Got at least a couple brakes. Boy, she chases rabbits. Woo. Second gear. As we're going 50. Man, I got to slow down. This is wild. That front end's big time out of alignment. Got good oil pressure. Yeah, look at this slack. That's spooky. Like I got a little brake dragging maybe. I'm not going too far, just up here, turn around. I honestly don't know how much gas we even have. Try our brakes from about 40. Okay, not bad. They do stop some. Big day, big day. All right, let's take it home. Leaked a little water out, got on the frickin' header. Take it in, boys, take it in. Okay. Water somewhere. Where did it spew from? Let's check our temp. I do not believe she's running hot. No water in that hose. Maybe it just blew the hose all the way off. We see our temp, 180. That ought to be easy, easy to spot. Oh, I see it. That goofy thermostat housing and freaking thermostat. See that rubber? Good first test drive. So if you made it this far, I appreciate it. Hopefully y'all had a good holiday, and I'll go back to work on this thing soon. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll catch you next time.